Right, okay guys, welcome back. So this is the last profession we're going to look at. So it's engineering, so the best will last, maybe. It might not be turning out to be the best, but let's find out. There is going to be one more video profession related, but it's going to be looking at what sort of setup of professions is the best for each class and spec, really, for a raiding sort of PvE environment. That video, I'll also announce the winner of the 1 month game time for people who have been answering the hidden movie quote. There wasn't a movie quote in dual crafting. I apologise about that. I just forgot. It's as simple as that. So this one has got a movie quote in it. So make sure you're listening, answer in the comments what movie you think that the quote's from and what the quote was, like what I actually said. And then I'll do the live draw in the next video. So also don't forget, I stream over on Twitch. You can see it up on the wall. So that's my username, ScottyJ87, streaming most nights. I travel a bit for work, so it's not every night, but I'd say at least 4 out of 7. So feel free to hop over, get involved. Links also in the description. So with that side, let's just move on. So engineering is a really, really solid choice. And we know that it's been a solid choice, or the go-to choice all the way through Classic. TBC doesn't change it too much, as in it's still got the, the fun gadgets and bombs and teleports and all them things that we've just become accustomed to, basically. So like repair bots, for example, always a massive bonus to have someone with repair bots in your group. Now there's just so much to talk about that I can't include it all because the video will just be that long. So I'm going to give you sort of the highlights, what I consider the really good things of engineering. Some you'll probably know straight away, some you'll be like, oh, that's quite cool, because some of it's not quite so obvious. So firstly, specialization wise, there still is 2 different specializations. So Gnomish and Goblin engineering hasn't changed. You've still got a quest for it. So let's make the screen bigger and I'll just put up exactly what we're going to need if you want to go Goblin or Gnomish. So firstly, you're going to need these if you want to go Gnomish. So mithril tubes, advanced target dummies, and accurate scopes. Nothing too drastic. These are easy quests that you're meant to be able to do. Obviously, long before 60. So we're not going to expect the map requirements to be out of this world. And then obviously, if you wanted to go Goblin, this is what you'll need for Goblin. Now, again, nothing really that you're going to worry about. It's a pointless quest, if I'm honest with you. I don't even know why it's still in the game. You should just be able to choose because the mats are really just so low that it's barely worth it. So the main difference between the two, between Goblin and Gnomish, is really the stamina trinket, which you can make, which is very nice for tanks, but Goblin definitely pulls ahead. You can see why. Goblin is definitely the better choice. You get a nice ranged pull. Then self-teleports. So obviously there's 4 in total, two for Gnomish, 2 for Goblin. So depending on where in the world they take you, depends on the usefulness of Goblin or Gnomish, respectively, I suppose. And then you've got different just fun items, just gadgets and things like that not overly useful, most of them, and some of them do cross over. Some of them you can make as Gnomish or Goblin, but that they are there to sort of give you a bit of a harder choice to make, I suppose. Both professions also get a couple of epic heads that they can make, but honestly pretty useless across the board. Obviously we want the engineering goggles, which depending on what itemization patch we go in Classic TBC, which I suspect will be 2.4.3, but if it was a 2.0 itemization, then you're not going to be able to make the engineering goggles straight away anyway. But nevertheless, these heads are still not worth going engineering for. They're just there. Goblin Sapper Charges also got upgraded to Super Goblin Sapper Charges, and we know how good Goblin Sapper Charges are currently still in Classic. These have now got an upgrade, so again, if you're a warrior tank, you've got the Super Goblin Sapper Charges, you've got this trinket where you've got a nice big ranged pull. It's really nice. You can see why it would be quite desirable, specifically for a prot warrior. So the Goblin Trinket is, not only does it hit hard, you get that nice big initial threat when you're pulling, but also, big stamina. Obviously, we don't want it to resist, or you're going to get no threat, but big stamina. It's going to be one of the best trinkets you can get early on. So, really good, really good. I can't stress how good it is for tanks. Obviously, another good thing about Goblin engineering is you can potentially save a corpse run with the jumper cables, and they do work fairly frequently. So yeah, these are the Goblin teleporters that you can get. So if you're Goblin engineering, you can go to either Everlook or Area 52. The Area 52 one's actually quite useful just based on how far away it is. It's physically well, yeah, if you're in Shatraf, it's quite a long flight, especially if you haven't got epic flying, or you'd need to take the flight path. But obviously also there's several dungeons, and there's a raid as well. Everlook in TBC, I would argue, is fairly useless. There might be some reason that you want to go to that part of the world and you're going to be able to get there quick. So, it really depends on what you're doing. Potentially, maybe it is quite useful. But me, personally, I would say it's the least useful teleport out of all of them that you can get. If you decide to go Gnomish, obviously you'll get the Gadget Zan, the teleport to Gadget Zan. somewhere I don't personally like, because you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. But saying that, Caverns of Time's there, so having a quick way to get there before you got the rep portal from Shat, assuming we're at the patch where it's available, it's still quite nice. Then you get the new teleport, so to Toshli Station, which is in Blades Edge Mountains. Now this is fairly useful. Obviously there's a raid in Blades Edge Mountains, you know, Gruul's Lair specifically we're talking about. Also it's quite close to Neverstorm, so you're in quite a good part of the world. It's quite close to Zangarmarsh, so you've got, you know, you've got dungeons all around you that you can get to potentially quick. So I don't think that's too bad, but this does mean you've got to go Gnomish, which I think the further we get through this video, the more you'll probably lean towards Goblin. I think I would lean towards Goblin personally, just for things like, you know, the super Goblin super chapter. I would lean towards Goblin, you know, purely for the Goblin super sapper charges, the big bad boys and that, you know. All right, so this is the one. I'll give you. I'm going to show you a few examples, but this is probably. This is why you're going to be going engineering. But again, it does rely on us being in a post 2.1 itemization, which we will be. It's bound to go 2.4.3 in Classic TBC. I'm banking on it. Obviously, I'm playing on Atlantis, Karazhan server specifically, and we're in 2.0 itemization. And I'm telling you now, it's a terrible place to be. Karazhan items, you know, so raid items are not as good as 5-man items. It's a mess, and I don't think it's a mess that Blizzard would want to sort of step into at the release of a Classic TBC launch. It will be 2.4.3 where everything was ironed out. So these sort of things will be in the game, these goggles from the start, and they are really nice. Look, I mean, we can have a look. You know, these are for every spec. So every spec and class, you know, however you want to word it, you can get a useful set of goggles, which also, when we go into Sunwell, the Sunwell patch, you'll be able to upgrade them. So these potentially, you're potentially going to craft an item when you're doing 70 or even before, and it will last you till Wrath of the Lich King. I'm not saying, you know, like tier 6 and stuff is not better, but it's still solid. You know, all of these are solid when they're upgraded. So yeah, pretty nice. And another one I'll just put up, so the Gyro Balance Corium Destroyer. Now this is amazing for tanks, especially early on. Again, it's going to depend on itemization patch, but I'm just going to assume we're 2.4.3. You know, this can be great. I mean, on top of making the gun as well as a tank, let's speak tank specifically. You know, you get these grenades, frost grenades, which are amazing, you know, for controlling mobs. If you just want to run in frost grenades so none of them can move while you like start trying to get some AoE threat, stuff like that, really good. Or you can use the adamantite grenades for extra AoE damage. So now we're talking non-tank specific. You'll have rogues using these, you'll have warriors, whoever, you know, can use these adamantite grenades. Again, as a tank, especially someone like a prop warrior, where your AoE threat is not actually amazing, you know, not as good as a prop paladin, obviously, you know, this can be your way to sort of try and close the gap a little bit on AoE pools. And now this, I can't even believe I'm putting this on screen. These are really good, as in, so flares. If you don't know what flares do, I mean, it's fairly obvious. It creates a flare. Yeah, some smoke off the ground. Now, we've not got raid, like world markers or anything like that in TBC. So this, to orchestrate where your raid's going to stand on certain bosses, we use it on Nightbane, things like that, where you want people to understand exactly where they're going to stand and where they're going to move to. You can get different coloured ones, so you could throw one down, you know, for group 1 and 2 will be white, group 3 and 4 will be green, whatever. You know, they're good. These really started Blizzard thinking about world markers, and that's why they introduced those glowing beams, because people was using flares back in the day, and we still will be. Like, you know, these are good. So to be an engineer, again, engineering is such a fantastic profession as a tank, because as a tank you're probably the one who's going to be dictating where people are going to stand and what they're going to do. So yeah, I mean, these are a nice addition. I mean, we're going from flares to locked doors, but again, you can unlock doors as an engineer, you know, which I'm sure some of you have done yourself doing DM North tribute runs and stuff like that, you know, so that's still got its usefulness in TBC. So yeah, these elemental C4ium charges, they'll serve you well. There's just so much you can do. And obviously, we're talking repair bots as well. I know I touched on it at the start, but, you know, you get a new repair bot. So at the moment, you know, obviously in Classic, you'll be using the one from BRD, but now you get an upgraded version. It's probably cheaper to make as well, if I'm completely honest with you. And then lastly, which is another reason why a lot of people will go engineering in TBC, you could be using these mounts. You know, you can be flying around in TBC, obviously, if you didn't know and you're just like doing some research, spoiler alert, you can fly in TBC. But you got these boring griffins, you know, they're not particularly exciting, not until you start getting the Nether Drakes and all of that, you know, the bloody flying squid things and whatever else. They're all good, they're all nice, don't get me wrong, but they don't quite beat this. being able to make this, I remember going engineering back in the day just to be able to make this because it just looks awesome. In comparison to any of the other mounts you can get at this point in the game, all right, let's remove Ashes of Alar, which Ashes of Alar, comes from the last boss in TK. Now, you're not going to see many of those flying around, trust me. Not particularly quick, anyway. But these, I still prefer this to anything in TBC, including Ashes of Alar. Fantastic mount, need to be engineering to make it. Just another bit of icing on the cake when it comes to engineering. So, I mean, if we just recap all the different things you can do, you can res, potentially. You can let all your party repair. You're going to make some goggles that you'll be able to use all the way through the expansion. You can make an amazing gun, which, trust me, people will buy, or you might want to use it yourself. You'll have the Goblin rocket launcher trinket, really nice, juicy stamina trinket. There is so much. Unlocking doors. Yeah, it's an amazing profession. Would I go? We're going to get a bit more into the details on who would go engineering in the wrap-up video, which is going to be the next one that I put out. But just sort of a high level. Keep saying it. Everyone's going to be level working. So who would have the engineering as their second slot potentially? I would say prot warriors. I would say rogues in some circumstances. Same with even DPS warriors. There's certain classes that it will fit well with, but it's not going to fit well with them all. So it will depend on what your class is. If you're min-maxing, like I will be, then engineering might not be for you due to your class. But we're going to get into that when we go into the wrap-up video, which I'll aim to get out hopefully in the next few days, so definitely by the end of the week or by the weekend. I'm travelling for work the next couple of days or 2 to 3 days, so I'm probably not going to get a lot of chance unless I do it while I'm away. But yeah, I mean, I hope you found this useful. This is just a quick look at what you can make. As I said, I don't want to go too much into detail on what you potentially have engineering as, because we're going to look at every single profession combination in the next video, and also what itemization patch, how that would play a part as to what professions you would go. So I hope you found this useful. If you have, make sure you like, subscribe, come check me out over on Twitch. Feel free to come over and ask me any TBC related questions. I've been playing TBC enough on private servers that I'm fairly confident I can give you the answers that you need. If I can't, I'll go away and find out, and I'll come back to you. Would I go engineering? I would go engineering. But until next time, peace out.